What would kind of come, after peptide therapy? And I know that peptide therapy can go on for good in different ways, but are there other, I don't know, categories of intervention or things that you would be wanting to put someone through who's looking to, optimize themselves with an ample budget?
So I think that's where we get into pharmaceuticals. And people, I think, always think pharmaceuticals are bad, right? There's sort of this general thinking that, oh, I want something natural. And I get that a lot from my patients. Oh, I don't want to take a drug. And I always tell them, well, even a lot of drugs come from natural compounds, but pharmaceuticals are not all bad. And there are some really beneficial effects of some pharmaceuticals that have been used for a long time. So for instance, if I understand the pathways, and that's one of the things we teach in our SSRP, it's what we call cellular medicine. I need to understand what's happening at the cellular level as I age, because ultimately every part of my body has the same problem, that my cells are aging and not working as well. So I need to understand every cellular pathway and then look at ways to change that cellular pathway. Hormones will change the cellular pathways. Peptides will change the cellular pathways. But can we use even higher tech versions of that, right? So that's where sometimes pharmaceuticals can come in. And we're going to see more and more, I think, along this line, as more and more money is being spent on considering sort of how do we cure aging? Can we actually cure aging? And I think the answer there is a most definite yes. We're getting closer and closer to that. So it's really probably finding maybe the perfect pharmaceutical that's working. And we're not there yet, but there are some considerations there. For instance, rapamycin, generic name sirolimus. Rapamycin, we know it's a drug. It's been around since the 50s. So it was used primarily and has been used primarily as an agent if somebody has an organ transplant. They're given rapamycin on a daily basis to keep their immune system a little bit suppressed so that they don't reject the organ. So it kind of get this sort of bad connotation. It's a bad thing, right? We don't want our immune system suppressed. But what we know is that one of the ways rapamycin works, so again, this is understanding the mechanism of action, is it blocks something called mammalian target of rapamycin, or mTOR. And mTOR, when mTOR is accelerated, we age more rapidly. Rapamycin has been shown in every mammalian species to extend lifespan. There's a great dog study going on. It's been going on for quite some time that, from mice to dogs, every mammalian species, rapamycin works. We don't know because humans live too long, but presumptively, we have very similar mechanics. So basically, should the same thing happen in us? Likely. So what we do with rapamycin is we use a very small dose on a once a week basis. So now I consider this like cleaning house, right? I want to get rid of all my bad cells. I want to block mTOR. I don't want to do it all the time. So think about like your house. This is if you never check out your trash, which is what happens in our bodies. If we never check out our trash, it starts to fill up in our body and creates more problems in aging and cancer. So, but if you took out your trash, let's say you had a totally pristine house, then you're probably not living very well. So what we do is we take out the trash once a week, right? So we use the rapamycin is once a week, we'll have people take a dose. So now clean out the house and then they regrow, clean out the house, regrow. So rapamycin, again, pharmaceutical agent, people would look at it and go, wow, you're taking a drug that's an immune suppressant, not at a low dose on an occasional basis. So that's what we're going to see more and more in the coming years is drug development, pharmaceutical development is actually designed for the sole purpose of slowing or delaying aging. So that's going to be the next step. And that's going to be where you're going to see the next years here, because now there's a lot of people with a lot of money throwing money into this realm, pharmaceutical developments for treating aging as a disease.
That's really interesting. Are there any other pharmaceuticals worth noting just for performance or, optimized health or energy in general?
So from a pharmaceutical perspective, yes, you can use, so very interestingly, azithromycin, which is an antibiotic, right? Which you guys have all taken Z-Paks for something or another. And antibiotics get a bad rap. But azithromycin has some very interesting longevity benefits. So I tell people, taking a cycle of azithromycin a couple of times a year actually has some very significant benefits in terms of slowing aging, helping with with basically our health span, not necessarily lifespan, but health span. So even drugs like azithromycin, where people are like, oh, well, that's an antibiotic. I don't like antibiotics. They screw up my gut. Well, azithromycin actually does not have a huge bad effect on the gut microbiome. And we know, at least in other animal species, that it actually delays aging and appears to work similarly on markers of aging that we do now. Another drug is an antihypertensive medicine. It's called telmisartan. So telmisartan is what's called an angiotensin receptor blocker. And the ARBs have been used in, as antihypertensives for a long time. And telmisartan, very interestingly, was put on the WADA drug list, the banned substances list, because it actually increases cardiac performance. So it increases endurance. It increases ability to recover faster. So you can use a low dose. Obviously, you don't want to take a high dose if you don't have hypertension, because it's going to lower your blood pressure a little bit. With a small dose, you can improve cardiac function in people and help them with their athletic performance. If you're a professional athlete, you can't take it. It's a tested drug. So those are all cautions we have to give our professional athletes. This is not something you can do if you're a professional athlete. But for people like me who are just recreational athletes, with a lot of our patients who just want to be optimized and don't care, that aren't tested athletes, it's a fine option. So how about Viagra or Cialis? And people always laugh because I'm like, I have all my patients, women and men, on either Viagra or Cialis on a daily basis. So small dose on a daily basis. And if you look at the benefits of that, how do those drugs work to increase erection quality? They work. So if you take a big dose before sex, they increase they increase blood flow, right? That's why you get a better erection. So if you take Viagra or Cialis, you can perform better in the bedroom. What if you take a small dose all the time? So now I'm increasing blood flow to my brain, to my organs, to my extremities. So by taking a small dose of Viagra or Cialis, you basically can improve people's ability to function. Again, those are also banned substances in sports, because I'm going to increase blood flow. If I'm increasing blood flow, I perform better. I have more energy. There's at least 3 studies that show that people who are, this is where they kind of figure this out. People who were taking Viagra and Cialis for sexual performance had less risk of Alzheimer's, less risk of dementias. So again, simple drug, inexpensive drug, yes, but and people laugh because like, wow, why do you have your women on Viagra? Because it improves their performance, and maybe more importantly, it improves their brain function. They have better blood flow to the brain.
Super interesting. Those are amazing examples.